Welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is Greg Schmidt and I'll be the presenter for today's webinar with the main topic of not all accounts payable automation solutions are created equal. For those working in the AP department, there are few things worse than chasing down a paper trail and discovering an invoice doesn't match the purchase order or doesn't have a PO at all. Mistakes like this, along with the amount of time that goes into manual data entry and document creation, are why AP departments are turning to AP automation solutions. When exploring AP automation solutions, you might notice some solutions focus solely on capture automation or workflow, while others only have focus on certain integrations to certain ERP or financial systems. Webdocs for AP Automation is a complete AP automation solution that streamlines PO creation process if needed, enforces approval processes, document creation, and the removal of data entry with OCR and data classification capabilities built into the application. And don't forget ERP integration. Having agnostic ERP integration, I think, is one of the key features to solutions today. So here's a quick look at today's agenda that I'll be covering, starting with the top challenges in AP departments today. And then I'm going to move into the main topic of not all AP automation solutions are created equally and walk through some of the functionality that is needed to have a complete AP automation solution that can grow with you. Then I want to cover what we're hearing from customers that is needed in an AP solution. And then I'll be doing an overview demonstration of the Webdocs automation solution and some of the critical and key features and the automation points and some of its components. And then if time permits today, I'll finish up with some Q&A. And I also have a couple polling questions that I'll be going through here today. I actually have two of them I'll be doing. And remember, today's event is being recorded, and you will receive a link to the recording after the event is over, and that you can either rewatch if you missed something or send to someone that might not have been able to attend today's session. Before I go too far, here's one of the polling questions I want to bring up here first. The first one here is, and I want to make sure that everybody has this, so just type in the letter into the chat window from that standpoint. So the letter of which one, or letters in some cases, you can push those into the chat window, and I will calculate those into a later slide here. So what level of automation do you have in your AP department today? And the first choice is 100% manual. B is approvals via email. C is automated but working as not expected with the ERP system, and then fully automated already, just looking. I'll give you just a few seconds here to type that into the chat window again, and then I'll calculate those results here in a few minutes. All right. Again, my name is Greg Schmidt. I'm a senior solutions engineer here at Fortra with about 24 years of experience in the industry. My areas of expertise are document and forms automation, accounts payable and receivable automation, intelligent document capture, robotic process automation, and also business intelligence. I also have over 2 decades of experience in the IBMI report and data distribution area as well. Over the years, I've been key in helping companies automate their document and data processes, and in turn, helping streamline their business processes with technology and strategic planning for digital transformation and document within their business workflows. One of the things I'm very passionate about is helping guide companies in best practices for implementation and solution expansion within their organization to bring as many efficiencies with the solution as they can within their organization. Now I'm going to cover some of the current AP business challenges within the department. If you look, start out, if you don't know already, you need to understand why companies are looking at AP automation solutions in their organizations. Every day, the accounts payable teams are asked to do more with less. process more invoices with fewer people, inadequate automation technology, and sometimes misaligned operational processes. These are the headwinds that are likely to become more challenging over the years. Now, more than ever, tens of thousands of businesses and AP leaders rely on AP automation and best practice experience to increase their team's efficiencies, to work smarter, not harder. And that being said, if you look at the number one problem in AP departments today, the large majority of it is due to intensive and inefficient manual business processes. And some of the components of those process that are intense and inefficient are the manual data entry and document preparation. That has to take place, right? The manual 2- and 3-way matching is very time-consuming and painful in the process. Manually routing for approvals. This is an area where there are a lot of lost and forgotten documents. So you might be, in some cases, it might be missed or, lost or misplaced, and they never get to where they need to go, right? So late invoices, you don't get to have those early pay discounts and all that stuff inside of there, and things like that. And then deduplication, paying things more than once, is a problem in some cases as well. And there are a few other ways that automation can help you, like, in some of these cases, like, the solution can bring, with the automation capability that we bring, right, to solve these problems, the solution can bring you some of that standardization to those business processes. So that's really, really one of the main features, you're going to hear today from that standpoint. But, improve, business insights across the entire organization, right? How many documents are out there? How many approvals? What are we processing and stuff like that? So as you see today, we'll talk about some of those, different kinds of things inside of the organization and stuff like that. That this is going to be able to help with at this point. This list is a great starting point to make sure that you're looking at the right solution for AP automation, right? So if you take this list and you break it down into those different things and say, hey, here's some components, here's some things. We'll talk a little bit later about some of the solution features, out in the industry and stuff like that, and why it's important. So you'll see some slides here a little bit later. But now getting into that main topic, sorry, of not all accounts payable automation solutions are created equally. The first thing you may be asking yourself is the question is, isn't AP automation the same for everyone? Isn't AP just AP? Or why would there be different requirements for each company, right? All AP processes can be broke down technically into 3 parts, with the first part and the last part being the common factors in the process, right? So the beginning stage, being able to collect the documents into the organization. How are they captured? Are they captured via email monitoring, scanning, the EDI transactions, network folder monitoring. Are we monitoring websites for information? How are those documents coming into the system at that point? And then if you look at the last part, that's the invoice, to the ERP system, the vouchering process that you currently have today, kind of thing. So feeding that information over into there. But the big difference is that middle question mark there, right? Is the middle of this process. This is where everything gets to be a little bit different within organizations because of processes and things that you might have put in place to be able to corral certain vendors and stuff like that, and bring that efficient and bring what you thought was efficiency to that process, but it's actually just creating the more of a bottleneck in some cases, right? So we look at the manual processes, right? We look at that, and it's not always just replacing what you're doing today or mimicking what you're doing today. It's about bringing efficiencies to this middle process, and also the 2 outside processes as well. The vouchering process is sort of what it is inside of your ERP system. But the beginning process is, now I don't have to collect those documents and process them into the system. Now, if you look at this slide here, there's really two different. So when we work with customers and customers come to us or prospects come to us, we're asking questions, about the solution that they need and some of the requirements that they're asking for, right? You can break this down into technically two different chunks, right? Hey, I don't need to do workflow. I just need to capture the documents and put the data into my ERP system, right? That's about 10% of what we see today. And then the 90% is what we do. I'll call it every day, right? Is invoice. We need to be able to automate the capture of the invoices. We need to be able to streamline that process to the ERP system, but we need to be able to do 2- and 3-way matching that interacts with our ERP or financial system, and also have workflow approvals for our different levels that might be, I'll call it business rule based or manual selection based. So these are the two areas, that we sort of focus on from that standpoint. Now, if you look at, some of those requirements inside of the system, right? We like to look at solutions, from that standpoint, and we like to build features that make us, have the capability to turn on things and turn off things if needed, right? So if you're doing 2- and 3-way matching already, we don't need to turn that on in our system, or maybe you need it to have to supplement something inside there because the 2- and 3-way matching in the ERP system is not doing what it needs to. So we look at some of this stuff inside of here, and we sort of look at the comparisons between these, and we like to make sure that we can handle all the needs. It's just depending on what our solution is going to enable or not. Now, there's no different cost for I'll call it for the solution to be able to have these functions, right? It's just more of a configuration thing in our services package that we have from that standpoint to turn on and turn off things. And the nice thing about this is expansion. You don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, right? So with the solution, you can actually put things in place today to start out with and say, here's my requirement today, and build on that requirement as you go forward with these different things. So if you look at sort of those core solution categories over there, right, there's something to think about is, document capture and intelligent data extraction processes, right? What kind of data do I need to bring into the system? Header, footer, line item detail, automated capture from different locations. And then what's my workflow requirement? Is there GL coding? Is there line item approvals? All that good stuff that we need to do there. ERP integration is another one. And then that matching part, at the end there. And our solution brings that all to you from that standpoint, and configuration capability, and I don't want to, the word customization comes up a lot, right? But it's not customization. It's the core package that is configurable to your business. And I think that is key to, to the success, like I was saying, the success of organizations, not creating your own customized solution, but configurable solution to be able to, use some of those different, features inside of the organization. All right, and let me just make sure I got the numbers here correct for this. I'm going to give you the results for that first polling question here. All right. It looks like about 65% are about 100% manual. There's some crossover in some of these here. There's about 15% that have approvals via email today, so they're getting invoices and emailing those around, and about 13% are automated but not working the way it's expected with their ERP system. So that could be, I would think, like maybe it's routing approvals or something like that, or it could be integration capabilities, or also it could be matching process like I was talking about as well. So there's different things that we see, and that's pretty common for us to see some of those different things inside of here. And the other one is fully automated ready, just looking. So there might be some people that are sort of in that C category, but they're looking just for see what's out there in the industry as well to make sure they made the right choice. So that's the polling question there. Results. All right, I'll go on to the next one here. So one of the other things is, what organizations are asking for an accounts payable automation solution, right? So what are people looking at when they're coming to us, right? And asking those questions. So organizations today, they all have a short list, right? And I always look at the list of nice to haves and must haves, right? Kind of a thing. The must haves are very important, to that process, right? There's some nice to have things inside of there that are, that are more interface based kind of a things, or maybe it's something to their system that they need to be able to do. But the must haves are, automated capture of invoices. They have to be able to, capture invoices automatically from different locations and be able to orchestrate that 24/7. Right. The beautiful thing about automation is it doesn't sleep. Right. The invoice comes in at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's going to process. It's going to go through there. It's going to be waiting. It's going to be waiting in the system for you to do something with it if there's an exception or if there's an approval process. Right. It's not going to wait to capture it just because it's sleeping, kind of a thing. Right. Intelligent document classification and OCR data extraction. This is a huge part of the solution that you'll see here today. Is the technology needs to be able to remove that manual processes that are inside of there of data entry and configuration or and capture processes, right? Two and three-way matching, like I was talking about, of the purchase orders, receipts, and stuff like that inside the system. Matching non-POs by sending PO request approvals, right? So we can actually match and do certain things like that. Or, hey, I need more information. Attach more information to this process. We can remove the babysitting of those approvals, right? So that's the beautiful part about that is not having to worry about it. Did Bob submit that invoice that I sent them via email? The system will do that for you. Let technology take over and set those reminders for you. And then the automated interactive invoice routing process, right? So that's that babysitting process, but putting those into automatic process, like this one came in for this location or this department, and this is the approval matrix behind it. So there's different things that we can do there, and then set deadlines and notifications for approvals to remove the digital bottlenecks, right? Something has 2 days for approval or 1 day or a week or whatever it is, right? So you can set those notifications up that way. Single interface, right? We don't want to be bouncing around to different interfaces for approval people. So we want to give everything in one single interface. So that is key to the process. And that's going to be key to two parts of the process you'll see today at the AP level and then also at the approver level. Connect seamlessly. So the last one, and to connect seamlessly with your business system, right? Like the ERP or financial system, and system agnostic integration, I think are key to this process. Sometimes people start there, right, with that question. That is a number one requirement to say, do you have capability to integrate with our ERP system? And if we move ERP systems, what does that look like? Secure document storage, being able to store them somewhere after the approvals are done with the whole version audit control and everything inside the system, and be able to look that information up, 6 months, a year, 18 months, 2 years down the road. Built-in user in the loop approval interfaces. This is huge, like I was talking about for the the single interface kind of thing. But inside of an automation process, no matter what that automation process is, you need to be able to have ways to be able to interject users into those processes at some point. So we have web browser interfaces, with the workflow and everything like that, to be able to push those documents in there. And for organizations, I just want to say this from the standpoint, I like to bring this up, that there's really no need for businesses or users to really fear the word automation, like most do today, right? Automation is not about replacing staff with software, right? It's about streamlining routine tasks to focus your team on solving business problems that the technology can't. So it's not about replacing the staff, it's about the focus of the staff to do what is more meaningful to the business. And that's really where our Webdocs for AP Automation solution makes your life easier for the accounts payable team. You don't have to hire people just to do data entry or chase down invoices or the manual matching and PO process, right? Or envelope stuffing in some cases, right? Or unstuffing, because you're going to pull those invoices out and scan them or process them. We can set up those automation tasks and work with different parts of the business to be able to get those via email to streamline that and set up some automatic capabilities inside of there. And so what we really look at this as is the human value of automation, right? So that's the human value of automation, not the fear of the word automation, but the value of automation to the business. And that brings, the ROI back to the business as well. And it actually makes happy employees, so the morale is a huge part of this process too, because, manual entry of something is not always fun, right? And matching and that is very tedious and stuff like that. And it's not what a lot of people are hired for, at that volume level, right? There might be some exceptions they have to do that with, but it's not really meant for, for long-term strategy. Now here's a look at a sample process, right? Now this is what a process currently could look like from an automation or from a non-automated process, right? This process has about 14 steps in it, right? Organizations are taking their multi-step, complex, and sometimes old processes, and need to be able to get them more efficient with technology, right? With automation technology. And here's that same process broken down into 5 steps, right? So breaking it down and saying, we don't need all those other steps because the automation capability is going to streamline a lot of that different process inside of there, and it's going to remove some of those tasks for the AP department and the human touch, right? So this is the true value of automation and what it really looks like to an organization, is taking a 14-step process and driving it down to a 5-step process. Now, it's not always taking a 14-step process and driving it to 5. It might be 6, 7, 8 steps or something like that, but it's removing the manual, inefficient tasks. All right, here's our second polling question now. What is the most time-consuming part of your AP process today? And there could be multiples of these too. So again, put this information or put the letter or letters into the chat window, and I will calculate these here in a little bit. The first one is email approvals, matching process, meaning 2- and 3-way matching, manual data entry, babysitting approvals, or all the above. Give you a few minutes here to enter those into the chat window. Oh, there's a lot of them coming in there. Thank you. A lot of interesting ones. A lot of multi-lettered ones here. So, all right. Give you a few more minutes here, or a few more seconds, sorry. All right, let's move on here. You can still enter if you haven't entered them in yet. You can still enter. I'm just going to move on here for time purposes. So what I'm going to cover now is the Webdocs accounts payable automation, stages of automation, right? And how the solution can help you, boost those efficiencies, gain the control of the processes, manage the documents more efficiently and securely within the organization, right? With the audit version control and security functions, centralize the processing and where it's happening at, improve the business insights so you know where things are at and how things are going. But another one is earn cash back, from faster, payments, discounts and stuff like that. So that's one that you can think about, that, AP usually is looked at from a standpoint as a cost center, right? Because you're paying stuff, you're not bringing money back, but you could get discounts by paying things faster in some cases, right? And improve compliance, and supplier relations, right? So to create a better vendor and supplier relationship, because maybe they can automate their process, which then brings more automation to you that gets the payment out faster. So there's a lot of things that can help you from that standpoint. And then manage growth without adding headcount, right? Bringing automation in to manage growth and making your users more efficient and have higher morale inside the company. Now, with the Webdocs Accounts Payable Automation solution, it gives you your AP process, the efficiencies with automation, right? So our automated capture and intelligent OCR engine, coupled along with our invoice manager and secure document repository, is configurable to your business, like I was talking about earlier, right? To be able to align with different approval processes and stuff like that. And then at the end of that process is feed that information to your ERP. So the data that was extracted, approved, maybe there was some GL coding that happened inside of there, but we can bring that efficiency back to the system to your system like that, right? Or to your process. So that's a huge part of the system, right? So we are very unique from that standpoint because we have all those different categories. We can cover, and you'll see here shortly, there's things that you might not need that we have inside the AP solution that are options, right? That are add-on options as well if your system doesn't have it. But the big thing is, being able to, like I was talking about, is being able to have that configurable platform that is giving you the value to the business, and as things change in the organization, is be able to configure to those different changes. And again, here are some of those benefits, like I was talking about right earlier, and bring this up again, is intelligent enabled invoice intake, right? So eliminating that manual data entry process, the ability to customize the approval processes, configure the business rules, to different departments, ERP agnostic, having that flexibility, to integrate with anything, kind of a feel. Centralized repository for enforcing your business's security policies of your documents and who can see what and when they can see inside the organization. With that detailed version audit control for all the invoice processes and supporting documentation as well. And an intuitive, easy to use browser interface for either document retrieval and also for document approval processes. So those are key to those different areas. Now here's a look at all 7 stages. In most scenarios, we are starting with the capture stage because most, or I should say some, and most organizations are not all PO based, but they have a PO system built into their ERP system. So the create stage, we do offer that part of our solution, but normally we are starting with our normal solution. I'll talk about that a little bit more. It is right here at the capture, transform, verify, approve, export, and utilize stages. But to start out here, from the PO creation, if your system does not have the process, right, we do have a PO creation and workflow solution to be able to create your form, and this is something you can create and manage, right? So this is a GUI interface, web interface, to be able to drag and drop and configure not only your form, but your workflows with the different kinds of approval limits that are needed inside of there. So you can manage the whole PO creation process and then feed that information into the AP automation process. So that is a process that you can start with at that point. In most cases, we're starting with this process, right? We're starting with the, hey, the PO is already created in our system. Our ERP system handles that. We just need to capture invoices, extract the data, and then process them through the workflow and save them into the archive, and then push the data to the ERP system for vouchering. So this is a very high level of the process, right? And the different stages of that process. Now, if you look at that a little bit deeper, it starts with that automated capture, right? Taking the documents from some location or multiple locations and bringing them into the advanced or intelligent capture engine, processing them, extracting the data, and then passing that information, either PO-based or non-PO-based, into its different flows to finish its complete process, either to and through web matching, or it might need to go through a workflow process. In some cases, POs might even need to go into a workflow process because there might be a variance. So we can actually, allow for that with a business rule to say, hey, this needs someone's attention. We need to push that down into the workflow approval process. Now, before I go on, the last results of the polling question for number 2 here, what is the most time-consuming part of your AP process today? And let me just make sure I got my numbers right here. All right. Looks like about 15% of you are doing email approvals. 37% are doing matching processes. 2- and 3-way matching processes is the most time consuming. Manual data entry is about 30%. And then 8% is babysitting approval processes, and 10% are all of the above. So that's interesting. That sort of falls along with sort of normal. We normally get a little bit higher, in the manual data entry area standpoint, but depending on what you're entering, right? So maybe you're just entering header footer information, so that's not as bad as entering all the line item information too. So that could adjust that score as well. All right, now to the fun part. Let's go get into the live demonstration here, and go through some of the different stages it's what's inside the solution. So the solution today, what I'm going to cover is the different stages, right? I'm going to cover, and I'm going to simulate here first the capture of some of the information that we're doing, right? I always like to call this part, the day in the life of AP professionals and approvers. What does the process look like to me, right? From that standpoint. So I always like to go through that part of it here. But today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to simulate some of these things here. And there's different things that we can do from a simulation standpoint. I'm going to take these and I'm going to copy these. And you see that I could actually be pushing these into an email, but I'm going to drop these into a folder. And you're going to see the system pick these up. So the system is smart enough to monitor these folders and grab this information. You don't need to do anything special with that information or anything like that. You can just process it into the system. Now, the system, like I was talking about before, there's different ways to capture those documents, right? So that what I just did is dropped them into a folder, but it could be email monitoring, it could be scanning into a folder. We could have EDI transactions processing there, right? We could do website monitoring via WebDAV or our RPA automation solutions or robotic process automation solution. But these are the different channels of automation capture that you can do to be able to capture that information into the system. It's a very powerful process at that standpoint to be able to push that information in. Now, one of the key pieces to the solution from that standpoint, is being able to, like I said, monitor those different locations. But there's power of the solution, right? When it comes into that, and I always call it what's happening behind the scenes. From a process standpoint. So if you look at the technology itself and what it's doing right now behind the scenes, it is taking that information, doing data extraction, and doing different things with it behind the scenes. So the first thing it's doing auto classification. So it's saying, hey, what kind of reading the document and saying, what kind of document is this? Is it an invoice? Is it a PO? And then in this case, it's going to look at it and say, hey, it's an invoice, or these are invoices, and then process it. And it's going to say, is there multiple? Is it single? What kind of, how many are there inside of this process? And then split them up if need be and process them as individual documents. It can do image cleanup, data extraction and OCR processing at the header, footer, and line item detail. So removing that manual data entry process from the users. If we can do data validation against the ERP system, saying, hey, is this a vendor in the system? Yes or no kind of a thing. And then business rules can be applied as well in matching processes. Now, the core technology itself, out of the box technology, has some intelligence to be able to, and it has its own algorithm to, and it's usually we look at, from the algorithm standpoint, you really can't put a number to it. It's hard to put a number to it, but it understands invoices, right? It understands the structure inside the core intelligence. So we can look at different variances, right? So it could be 1,000, it could be 5,000, it could be 10,000 different variances, right? Because there's certain structures of those invoices that are built into the algorithm to be able to process. So that's out of the box technology, right? That we process with. And then we have the capability to go even deeper, right? Definition creation. Definition creation, I think, is very important because it gives you the configurability to the organization. Now, what if I have a troublesome invoice from a certain vendor that I get a large volume from? What do I need to do? We can use definition creation. If it falls outside of the core intelligence and then we need to use definition creation, we can create a definition very quickly with the solution to be able, and it doesn't have to be us, it could be you creating the definition, but create that definition to be able to encapsulate those different nuances inside the process. And then today you'll see as well is self-learning processes, right? So as an exception comes into the process, we can then process those documents as exceptions within the system from that standpoint. So there's different things that we can do to be able to point and click and process things off of. Now here's the process, right? So I'm going to cover 1 and 2. So OCR process, the ultimate goal is to get things to go through what we call straight through and verification processes, but things will have exceptions at certain points. So you might have to have AP look at something through the AP interface, and that is desktop client based or web browser based. Just depends on which one you want to deploy, or if you want to deploy both. And the other option is, through workflows and approval processes through what we call our Webdocs Invoice Manager. So there's some different things there from that standpoint that we can, bring information into. From this standpoint here, I'm going to go into what we call the verification station. The verification station is a very powerful station, and this is web browser based or client based, and it's going to allow you to push documents one direction or another to different individuals to do that approval process, right? And look at those exceptions. And this is meant to be an exception only station. Right, so only exceptions that are in here for some kind of reason, broke a business rule or did something, right, can be routed to here. And you'll see that in this process here, I'm about 99 or 100%, I should say, of the data has been extracted correctly. So really powerful, part of the solution is to be able to do that. So I always look at this and break it down. Here's my documents. Here's the data from the documents. Here's my errors or why the document is sitting here. And then here's my document view. So if I want to know why this document is sitting here, I can click on this informational button and say, oh, there was a deviation from the PO to the invoice of over the allotted amount in the business rule. So it was 11%. It was 1% over the 10. That I had approval for. So you might be able to give the approval capability to AP to be able to say, yep, I accept it, or maybe you want that to go through a workflow process. So if you don't accept it, it will go into a workflow process. But a very, very powerful piece to this is is being able to give those different levels of authority at different pieces at different stages here. The next process might be, hey, this is a troublesome invoice from a vendor because it's sort of flip-flopped in here. I need to be able to grab and tell it something. It picked up about 98% of the information correct. I just need to know where the invoice or the item number is, and it's a little bit different because it says SKU or part number. So in this case here, I can use the self-learning capability and point and click to be able to capture that information and bring it into the invoices or into this process. There could be database lookups. So we can say, hey, we triggered an event that says there's 4 matching records for this one. Which one do you want to select? So it could be something as simple as that and say, hey, I need to select that one. It could be a business rule that we need to approve. Or it could be, hey, you didn't pick up all the information correctly. How do I correct that? So I can actually just rubber band that information and correct it and then hit the execute button to finish that process. So very easy and very quick process here from that standpoint. And here's another one here is the character validation. If there's anything, it's not confident on, right? And says, what, I'm not 100% sure. It might have been a bad scan or just not sure because it's too close. We can actually show that to you as well, and then put visual confirmation to any of those. And after that process is done, you can hit that send the batch button, and then that send the batch button is going to process that information to the ERP system or into the workflow process. And then the last part here I want to bring up is the capability around sort of that approver process, right? Behind the scenes, right? So we have configurable workflow inside the system. We have capabilities there, right? So we can bring that into the system. But more importantly, we have the configuration to be able to configurability to set it up to your business process, right? Give you the workflow, give you the data that you need to see or the statuses you need to be able to see inside of there. And we have a lot of different features inside of the system. So supported features like deduplication, two and three-way matching, business rules, variances and amounts and GL coding and different ways we can do routing from drop-down boxes and automatic configurations and stuff like that or selections. So there's lots of different things that we can do inside of the application to be able to configure it to work with your process, but also work with your ERP system. That is a true piece to there. So being able to configure that information inside of here with the workflow process, but giving someone a single user interface to be able to log in with their username and password. Maybe they got an email that's with a notification. They need to be notified, or if it's AP in this case here, they can log in with their credentials, and this is the work queue, and this might be multiple people's queue or might be an individual's queue, right? And they can see that it's awaiting matches or waiting goods received, so it's looking for certain information, or hey, it might be waiting a GL coding process because it's a non-PO process, non-PO, so I need to GL code that one. So there's different things that you can do in there, but these processes here, and I'll click on one of these so you can see this, gives you that single interface of with the data that was extracted in the process, right? Saying here's the data that was extracted, from the document at the header and footer information, header and footer, and we can add GL coding drop downs in here. This is where I was saying it's configurable to you at that point. So you can add GL code drop downs that are configured to the ERP system. So any of these little blue boxes are configured to the ERP system or database that you want. But this gives you that single user interface to be able to put notes, be able to do approve stuff, and do all that kind of stuff inside of the system. And like this one here is the GL coding process, right? Maybe I need to, and this one has submit for approval, do different things with it, reject it, and this one has an approver option down at the bottom. So if this one I need to bounce into an approval process because there's no PO for it, I can bounce it into another person's process to be able to do that as well. So this does give you that capability to be able to go a little bit farther, from that standpoint. So this is really cool, and then, like I said, this is configurable, right? We can have these interfaces to be, and by default, in some of these things I don't have turned on is the document viewing. So if there's related documents to it, we can get to those documents from here. If it's a duplicate inside the system, we can actually look at that information inside of here and deduplicate, and so say so that you retrieved or received one via email, and it's processing, but a week later or 2 weeks later, you get one via a mail, and it gets scanned in and processed, right? So it's going to pick it up as a duplicate inside the system and let you verify that. So it's going to put those on different kinds of routes. But you can configure, turn off things inside of the interface to be able to streamline that process. So very, very powerful piece there from that standpoint. Now we also got document retrieval, right? Like I said, come back 6 months later kind of a thing. I need to get to something. How do I get to that, right? The secure document repository is going to give you that capability. So you can log in through the web interface. I can come in here and say, hey, I need to go and see all information for maybe a certain PO number from a vendor and see, what the approval was and see all the information about it. So you can see that full packet of information here and then click on like the invoice or the PO or whatever it is and see that information directly in your browser along with any history, notes, and also routing and version control inside the system. So you're able to see that. And again, this is all security based inside of here, so you're only going to see what you have access to or give people access to. And you can put annotations and all that good stuff on documents too. So maybe you want to throw a stamp on it that says paid or something like that. This does give you that capability to be able to put sticky notes or like a paid stamp or something on it as well inside of the interface. So we do give you all of those different functionalities inside the application. All right, and we are bumping up on time here. I just one more thing I want to cover quickly here, because I think this is key to the process that I've been talking about, is ERP and line of business system integration. What are the different ways we can integrate into systems, right? And this is key, I think, right? Best practice, we go to more of the import-export option, right? Using an XML file and formatting that file for you to be able to import, CSV file, something like that to be able to push into. We have REST API capabilities. We can do different things like that. And we have database and staging capabilities, right? So we can feed a DB2 table, a SQL table, doesn't make a difference, right? We can feed that information to somewhere at that point. And then we also have robotic process automation bots that we can put into. So if we have to go to an interface, maybe you don't have um, capability to integrate. How do I do that then? So we have front of glass integration where I can actually interact and read a file with a robotic process automation bot, and then take that data and then populate it into a screen, and then and do that kind of like a sort of like what a human would do on a manual data entry, but this would happen from an automation bot. So we give you that capability there to be able to do that. So we have many different ways, and I haven't seen a way that we haven't been able to integrate. In my 24 years, I have not seen a way that we have not been able to. We normally like to lean one way or another inside the process, but we have those different capabilities. All right, we are pretty much on time to the 45 minutes here. There are some questions. I think I did answer most of those because they came in early. From that standpoint, I will follow up with everybody just for time wise. I'm going to finish this out here. I just want to thank everyone for coming to the webinar here today, and from the standpoint of, I hope you learned a lot about the AP automation solution, and the different capabilities of solutions or our solution, and how it can help you within your organization, from an integration methods, to some of those, removing some of those manual tasks that you're doing. But again, I will respond to some of those questions that are out there from that standpoint. There's a few out there that I probably did not answer during the webinar, but I will get back to you on those as well. You will receive a link to this record, and it will be a recording link that you can share with anyone in your organization or rewatch if you need to. Feel free to reach out to us at any point if you would like to have a live demonstration. Throwing this out there, we can actually show your documents processing through the system as well. So if you want to see your documents and your process and how that looks, you'll let us know. Give us a call, kind of a feel. We can set that up. So reach out to our document management, document forms management sales team, or reach out to myself here, and we can set something up for you to be able to do that. Thanks everyone, and have a wonderful rest of your day and the rest of your week. Thank you.